His name was Gabenga Adesuyi. He walked out of the University of Ibadan with a certificate that felt heavy with promise. It was not just paper, it was a testament to sleepless nights and a sharp mind. He had earned a first-class honors degree in political science. In Nigeria, this was a golden ticket. It was supposed to open doors. His family celebrated with a joyous noise that filled their small home. His mother danced, her wrapper a blur of bright colors. His father, a man of few words, simply nodded with a deep pride in his eyes. Gabenga believed his future was a straight, bright line. He had done his part. He had studied hard. Now the world was supposed to do its part and reward him. He pictured his new life clearly. He would get a prestigious job in a government ministry in Abuja or a multinational corporation in Lagos. He would wear a sharp suit and carry a leather briefcase. His salary would be enough to lift his family, to replace the leaking roof, and buy his mother the expensive lace she admired in the market. He spent the first few months carefully crafting his CV. He sent applications to every major company he could find. He was confident. Why would they not want him? He was the best, the brightest. He was a first-class graduate from the premier university. The first rejection letters felt like a mistake, a clerical error that would soon be corrected. The initial optimism began to fade slowly, like the setting sun over Ibadan's hills. Weeks turned into months. The pile of rejection letters grew taller. Some companies did not even bother to reply. The silence was louder, more painful than a direct no. His friends, many of whom had graduated with lesser grades, began to find jobs. They moved into new apartments and bought their first cars. Gabenga would attend their celebrations, smiling a smile that did not quite reach his eyes. He felt a growing unease, a cold knot in his stomach. The golden ticket was not working. The doors remained firmly shut, and he was left standing outside, wondering what he had done wrong. The questions started to haunt him in the quiet of the night. Was his degree not as valuable as he thought? Was there something wrong with his name, his face, his background? He would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every failed interview in his head. The confidence that had once been his armor began to crack. He saw the worry in his parents' faces, the way they avoided talking about his job search. The air in the house grew thick with unspoken disappointment. The promise that had once been so bright was now a flickering candle, and Gabenga Adesuyi feared the slightest breeze would extinguish it completely, leaving him in darkness. 11 years. The number itself felt heavy, a burden on his spirit. What does a man do with 11 years of waiting? Gabenga learned to live with rejection as a constant companion. It was the bitter taste in his morning tea, the shadow that followed him down the street. He applied for hundreds of jobs. He traveled for interviews in crowded buses, his best suit now worn and a little too tight. He faced panels of interviewers whose faces blurred into one. They would look at his stellar CV, ask a few questions, and then say the familiar, soul-crushing words, "We will get back to you." They never did. It was a slow, grinding erosion of his self-worth. To survive, he had to find a new rhythm for his life. He could not simply wait. He started a small tutoring service for neighborhood children, teaching them mathematics and English under a mango tree in his compound. It did not pay much, but it gave his days a structure, a purpose. It reminded him that his mind was still sharp, that he still had knowledge to share. He also enrolled in online courses, learning new skills like project management and data analysis. He was building himself, brick by brick, even as the world seemed intent on tearing him down. He refused to let his brain grow stale. He read voraciously, devouring books on history, economics, and philosophy. There were days when the weight of it all was too much to bear. He would see a former classmate featured in a newspaper for a major accomplishment, and a wave of bitterness would wash over him. Why them, and not me? The question was a sharp stone in his heart. He felt forgotten, left behind by a world that was moving too fast. He watched his younger siblings graduate, find jobs, and get married. He was still in his father's house, the brilliant son who had become a local cautionary tale. Some relatives whispered that perhaps he was cursed, that someone had cast a dark spell on his destiny. These words stung more than any formal rejection letter. Yet in the midst of this long wilderness, Gabenga held on to a sliver of hope. He found strength in his quiet routine and in the small victories of his students. When one of the children he tutored gained admission into a prestigious secondary school, he felt a pride that was pure and profound. It was a reminder that he could still make a difference. He learned to measure success not by a job title or a salary, but by his own resilience. He was still standing. He was still learning. He was still fighting. The 11 years did not break him. They forged him into something stronger, like steel tempered in a relentless fire. After 11 years of closed doors, a small window finally opened. It was not the grand entrance he had once dreamed of, but it was an opening nonetheless. A friend told him about a vacancy for an assistant lecturer position at a newly established state university. It was far from the glamour of Lagos or Abuja. Gabenga was hesitant at first. Academia was not his original plan, but the thought of sharing his knowledge, of shaping young minds, resonated with the part of him that had come alive while tutoring under the mango tree. He polished his CV one more time, adding his new certifications and his tutoring experience, and sent in his application. The interview was different this time. He was no longer a fresh-faced, naive graduate. He was a man who had lived through a decade of disappointment. He spoke with a quiet authority, his answers rooted in deep reflection and a wealth of knowledge he had accumulated during his years of waiting. He did not just talk about political theories from textbooks. He spoke of resilience, of societal structures, and of the human spirit's capacity to endure. The interview panel saw not just a first-class degree, but a man of substance and character. A week later, the call came. He had the job. The relief was so immense it felt like he could finally breathe after being underwater for a very long time. He poured his entire being into his new role. The lecture hall became his stage, his sanctuary. He was not just a teacher, he was a mentor. He saw himself in the hopeful and sometimes anxious faces of his students. He made his classes engaging and interactive, a space for debate and critical thinking. He remembered the sting of being ignored, so he made sure to learn every student's name. He stayed late to offer extra help, to counsel those who were struggling, and to inspire those who dreamed big. His passion was infectious. Students flocked to his office, not just for academic advice, but for life guidance. His dedication did not go unnoticed. He published research papers in respected journals, drawing on his deep understanding of political and social dynamics. His work was sharp, insightful, and grounded in real-world experience. He took on administrative duties with a quiet efficiency and a collaborative spirit. He was not just doing a job, he was building a community. He understood that a university was more than just buildings and degrees. It was a place where futures were forged. He was finally using the gifts he had nurtured in solitude for so long, and the effect was transformative, both for him and for the university. 6 years passed in a blur of meaningful work. Adekunle's reputation grew beyond his department. He was known as a man of integrity, a brilliant academic, and a compassionate leader. He had been promoted to senior lecturer and then head of department. He served on numerous university committees, always bringing a perspective that was both wise and practical. He never forgot his 11 years in the wilderness. That experience had given him a profound empathy and a humility that made him an effective leader. He understood struggle, so he knew how to build people up. He had faced rejection, so he knew how to create a culture of inclusion. Then, the unexpected happened. The university's governing council began the search for a new chancellor. It was a position of immense prestige and responsibility, typically reserved for older, politically connected figures. Gabenga's name was mentioned, at first in whispers, and then in serious discussions. He had no powerful godfather, no political ties. All he had was his record of excellence, his unwavering dedication, and the deep respect he had earned from students and colleagues alike. His journey embodied the very spirit of the university, the pursuit of excellence against all odds. After a rigorous selection process, the announcement was made. Dr. Gabenga Adesuyi, the man once deemed unemployable, was appointed the new chancellor. His appointment sent a powerful message across the nation. It was a story of hope. It showed that perseverance could triumph over patronage, that merit could eventually find its reward. As chancellor, Gabenga did not forget his past. He established scholarship programs for brilliant but underprivileged students. He created mentorship initiatives to connect students with industry leaders, ensuring they would not face the same closed doors he had. He championed a university culture where every voice mattered and every dream was considered valid. His leadership was not about power, it was about service. He was now opening the doors for others that had been slammed shut on him for so long. To anyone facing rejection, to anyone whose journey is marked by delay and disappointment, Gabenga's story is a guiding light. Your worth is not defined by the opportunities you are denied. The waiting period is not wasted time if you use it to build yourself, to learn, and to grow. Patience is not passive. It is an act of strength, a quiet resolve to keep moving forward. Hold on to your hope, even when it feels fragile. Nurture your skills in the shadows, for you do not know when your moment will come to step into the light. The path may be long and winding, but resilience will eventually lead you to a destination more beautiful than you ever imagined. And if you want to know what he did next, please subscribe for continuation of this story.